It's exactly 9:30 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. And next we'll be talking with Director of Accountability Now, and that's Advocate Paul Hoffman. This has to do with President Cyril Ramaphosa being under pressure to come clean on his comments about public funds being misused to fund ANC factions, with Parliament Standing Committee on public accounts, that's Scopa, who are now asking him to answer 8 questions before deciding whether to summons him or not. Let's weigh in on this issue with Advocate Paul Hoffman. Will this, in fact, ever come to light? A very good morning to you and welcome to the program.
Good morning to you and to your listeners and viewers as well, Julie. I'm afraid that the powers of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts do not include anything to do with a prosecution of the apparent wrongdoing that has taken place. The leaked tape recording or recording, whatever kind of recording it is, suggests that the president knows that money that belongs to the public has been used by the ANC in its campaigning. Now, the ANC is not entitled to do that, and the only way in which that could have happened was by way of a criminal activity, be it theft or fraud or corruption of some kind. The real problem that the president faces at this time is that he knows about this and has apparently not reported it to the South African Police Service. That he is obliged to do in terms of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act, which includes a provision in Section 34, which requires any person in a position of authority, and clearly as head of state and as the chairman or the leader of the national executive, he is such a person. That person, having knowledge of wrongdoing, is obliged to report it to the police on pain of criminal sanctions. That is the real problem that the president is facing at this time. He will be able to answer the 8 questions, but whether he is able to defend himself in criminal proceedings which should be brought is another question entirely.
I must say that I'm surprised and disappointed. I actually thought that Ramaphosa is or was squeaky clean, but those are my own thoughts, obviously. His comments, obviously, in a leaked recording of the ANC National Executive Committee meeting are also subject of a probe by the public protector. So are these 2 different mechanisms that are going to play out? Or is it going to be consolidated and he's just going to be attending one supposed hearing? And what are these 8 questions all about? Are we as the public privy to those questions?
Yes, the questions are out in the public domain. They're in the media. Look, we need to look at the roles and responsibilities of the various institutions that are involved in this. Let's start with Scopa. Scopa is a standing committee on public accounts that is a committee of the National Assembly in Parliament. The Parliament consists of 400 people, and that's obviously too big a body to exercise oversight efficiently over the various branches of government. So what they do is divide the members of Parliament into committees that exercise oversight over the police, over the justice system, over foreign affairs. All manner of committees of the National Assembly exist for the purpose of exercising oversight. And in order to exercise oversight, they are entitled to ask questions and to subpoena people who do not cooperate with them if that is going to happen. So the upshot of the Scopa inquiry is that Scopa may refer the answers that it gets from the president to the police, to the investigative directorate of the NPA, or indeed to the public protector. The public protector is the policeman of the ethics of the executive. The Executive Ethics Act gives the public protector the power to exercise the supervision or oversight of the executive if a complaint is made to the public protector by a member of parliament. Mr. Dirks, the errant suspended ANC member of parliament, has indeed made such a complaint, and the public protector, not surprisingly, has leapt upon that complaint with alacrity and will investigate the complaint. But the public protector only has the power to take a remedial action. She is not a prosecutor. And obviously, if she finds, as we suspect will be the case, that the president knew of wrongdoing on the part of the ANC and did not report it to the police, then the appropriate finding of the public protector is to direct the Criminal Justice Administration to do its work in the form of a prosecution of the president. Scopa, if it also comes to the similar conclusion, can also refer the matter to the police for investigation and via the police to the National Prosecuting Authority for prosecution. So that is the way that the institutions overlap and interlock with each other. Oversight on the one hand, policing, if you like, on the other hand, and then the Criminal Justice Administration in the final analysis, and we're not even anywhere near there yet, will have to take its course and will have to get to the bottom of the irregular, illegal, unconstitutional use of public funds by the ANC to finance its private political activities.
At this point, do we know the amounts that we're talking about? And do we, in fact, know whether any of these monies went into anyone's pockets high up in the ANC? For example, Cyril Ramaphosa himself. And what were the funds actually used for? Or is it all going to be part of it?
He does mention that funds were used for busing people around, which is an expensive exercise. But if you look back in history, Andrew Feinstein was one of the ANC MPs in Scopa in the very first parliament after 1994. And he has written a book called After the Party, in which he makes the allegation that the 1999 ANC electoral campaign was financed out of bribes exacted in the arms deals. We know from the British Parliament that British Aerospace, which accounts for about half of the value of the arms deals, paid bribes of £112 million. So that's a number that answers your question. The deal that was done between Eskom and Hitachi to create Hitachi Power Africa to tender for the supply of boilers to the power stations at Medupi and Kusile has, according to Professor William Gumede, who studies governance, he's an expert on it, that deal has made the ANC 3 billion rands in dividends and in profits on the sale of its 25% holding in Hitachi Power Africa. That deal was illegal, and it led to Hitachi being fined millions of dollars in the United States for contravening the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Fortunately for the ANC, it does not do business in the United States, so it was not in the dock with Hitachi. In fact, Hitachi has had to pay its fine, unscramble the deal by giving back or buying back the shares that the ANC had in Hitachi Power Africa. And the ANC itself has sailed on with impunity and with its 3 billion rand out of that deal. So you can see that this sort of thing has been going on a vast scale for a long time. The deals that the president was probably referring to, but it's not clear from the tape, are to do with the funding of the CR17 campaign and the counter campaign by Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma for leadership of the ANC at the Nasrec conference in 2017. And we know that there's a story about a grabber being acquired via the State Security Agency at a vastly inflated price, so that part of the price could be used to fund an internal election within the ANC. Numbers on that one are hard to come by.
Every time we talk about government and all of the dirty business that they're involved in, it just seems to get dirtier and murkier. And you kind of wonder then where to from here for South Africa, taking into account the unacceptably high unemployment and crime rates. But I guess that's a different story altogether. We talk about unimaginable figures like 3 billion rands, and yet Lutuli House staff are not or haven't yet been paid their salaries since October last year. So goodness me, where has all the money gone to?
Yes, that's a very good question, and it's going to take a great deal of expertise in the criminal justice administration to unravel the answer to the question which you pose. The problem is that corruption with impunity, which is what has been the case, certainly since Jacob Zuma was president and also before, corruption with impunity breeds upon itself. The more people who see that others are getting away with corrupt activities of the kind we've been talking about, the more you will find that corruption is indulged in by an ever widening group of people. And the only way to fix this in South Africa is to get ourselves a reform of the criminal justice administration that renders the anti-corruption machinery of state effective and efficient, so that it is adequately independent to counter serious corruption wherever it may be found, without fear, favor, or prejudice. Now, Accountability Now has suggested a constitutional amendment and draft enabling legislation to the Cabinet, to the ANC, to the NPA, and to Parliament itself. It is for Parliament to pass the remedial legislation after a proper debate with public participation. What is lacking at the moment is the political will to get on and debate the reform of the criminal justice administration in such a way as to render it fit for purpose. We need to remember that when the Scorpions were closed down, there were more than 500 of them. Today, the investigating directorate of the National Prosecuting Authority, which is a sort of successor to the Scorpions, has 17 permanent staff and about 100 persons seconded to it. That is approximately 1/5 of the manpower that the Scorpions had. Are we surprised that corruption with impunity is the order of the day? And do we need to do something about it? I would suggest that if we don't, we are staring down the barrel of becoming a failed state in South Africa.
And on that very, very dark and negative note, I could sit here talking to you all day. We will pick up with you another time. It's so depressing when we hear about the large scale corruption that's going on in the country. Imagine the possibilities uh, of this country if the greed, if greed doesn't overtake, and if politicians are not greedy money grabbers and are allowed to run the country as they're supposed to. Just imagine the potential for this country. But Advocate Paul Hoffman, always a pleasure talking to you. We will talk again sometime soon. Go well, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity, Julie.
Bye-bye. Okay, it is 9:46, and just before we take an ad break, Nasreen, can I ask you to clear the screen for me? I'd like to go to Hanif Manju's comments this morning that he sent to us. Can we share that with our viewers? I'm sure this was sent this morning. Is this an old comment or not? All right, let's just read it. Anyway, Hanif Manju, Jazakallah for becoming a part of the conversation. You want to talk about selling Amasi in the hood to supplying woolies. Okay. All right, these are a couple of links that you have sent to us. You'd also go on to say, good morning, leader. This is the same manipulation to prop Zionism, divide and selectively promote. Africans were not allowed in Israel, and those managed to get in were expelled into the Sinai desert. Even recently, African Jews were kicked out. Clover belongs to dot, 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 dot. So I'm not sure if that was cut off, but Hanif, I get your drift. I think you are making a comment about the whole Clover strike. Perhaps we'll get some more comments from you tomorrow, inshallah. 9:48. This is News and Views. We're on to our final interview for the morning. Please stay with us.